Welcome, everybody, to episode 11 of the Thundercrafts podcast, where we forge through the shitstorm that was WCW Thunder. I am your host and the 1998 Spring Break Cannonball champion, Josh Kaiser. And joining me today, a friend of Mr. Jack Hammer, Josh Haddix.
Dude, that cannonball, which we'll get to later, is my favorite thing I've seen in a while.
And, of course, the 240-pound boil on the booty of life, Mr. Kyle Hoagland.
Damn it, I was actually hoping you'd give that to Haddix, but I don't know why I even thought for a second that you would not give that to me. What's going on?
Oh, the minute I heard that one, that had your name written all over it, my friend. Of course, it is March 19th, or March 26th. What is it? March 19th? I got it. I'm looking at my notes here. I got two different dates written down. I think it's 19th. I think I was copying the next week. It's 1998. It's Thunder. And we open up with not Thunder, but a cold opening to Nitro, which Mr. Tony Schiavone says was the most dramatic entrance in the history of professional wrestling. It's a helicopter, and then we cut to our Thunder opening.
So let me real quick on the Nitro. So that was an outside episode, I'm assuming, obviously.
Yeah. So Nitro did this. WCW did this a lot. Well, I shouldn't say a lot, but from time to time they had like spring break episodes in like open arenas like that. They would have like Hog Wild or Road Wild was one of their pay-per-views.
They would also
do
a lot
Sturgis.
with MGM Studios in Disney. Though they have like an outdoor one. Used to have an outdoor one every year there as well.
Oh wow! I guess I never realized because WWE only really had SummerSlam was outside every once in a while, right?
They did very few. Every once in a while was a SummerSlam. I think WrestleMania.
Oh, that's true. A couple months. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's not something you do every day. But WCW did it a lot, and I loved it. I always love the outside venues, so it was cool to see that shot. But it was weird because they literally just showed us the helicopter. Schiavone sold it like it was the greatest thing in the history of our sport, and then we cut to our Thunder
and
opening.
Then no explanation.
And that said, we are of course live from the home of Indiana State and Mr. Larry Bird, Terre Haute, Indiana, and it's the same three. Of course, they're here. They're discussing Uncensored, which happened this past Sunday, and Tony seems to kind of lead off that it looked like Macho Man and Hogan may have worked out their differences a little bit, but said that Macho Man wants his title shot against Sting. I gotta say, I watched Uncensored. And, of course, Macho Man and Hogan had that cage match, and it kind of just ends in like a no decision. Sting comes into the ring, and Macho Man ends up attacking Sting and then leaves. So at first you're like, oh, maybe he set Sting up. But no, he looks pissed at Hogan, looks pissed at Sting like he's just a lone wolf, if you will.
I mean, he just looks like a pissed off man. He's the world's most dangerous man. That's not Ken Shamrock.
They always say that. Yeah,
he's the world's most dangerous wrestler or something. He's not Ken Shamrock's. It's close to the Ken Shamrock moniker, but it's not the same. That said, we got our opening bout for the night. It's Chris Jericho and Super Calo. Of course, Chris Jericho defending his Cruiserweight Championship. And what did you guys think about Jericho's attire and facial hair in this time?
I'm kind of used to the facial hair. I think towards the end of his time in WCW, I feel like the growth on his face has gotten a little bit out of hand. The vest, I'm pretty sure, is in his eyes the Dean Malenko trophy for being Dean Malenko. So he's got Hoovie's mask, he's got Ray's shirt, he's got the title, and now he has Dean Malenko's vest.
That was Dean's vest? That was actually like Dean's vest?
Well, Dean Malenko wears a vest very often to the ring.
Oh, okay.
And so it might not be, they might not have stolen his, but if you notice, it's a WCW
vest. Or something.
I thought it was just Jericho like being Jericho and pushing the boundries because like WCW didn't care about him, so he's just doing whatever. But I can see
it could
that.
be a little bit of that too.
But to your point about Malenko, he does beat Malenko at Uncensored, and it's really weird what happens afterwards. Like, Malenko loses the match, and Mean Gene comes out and gets in the ring and, like, berates Dean Malenko for losing and, like, basically just calls him a big loser who can't do anything. And Dean, like, doesn't say anything, eventually just walks away. It was so bizarre the way that, like, Mean Gene was cutting this, like, heel promo on him.
Hey, they're setting up a feud between Dean Malenko and Mean Gene.
Yeah, it was strange. That said, Jericho comes into the ring. He asks Pinzer what the name of the city is, and then says he loves Terry Hot. It's his favorite city, which just made me laugh. Jericho just doing some classic heel.
Classic heel, yeah.
And as for this match, I got to say the crowd overall, this might have been one of the best crowds for Thunder we've had. They were just hot for most of the show, and they were all.
Hey, it's what's called Terry Hot.
The Jericho sucks chants are in full force. And, the commentary team actually spent most of the time discussing Jericho and Dean Malenko in the Cruiserweight division, which was, kind of impressive. Normally these matches come on and they're just immediately pushing the Hogan, Sting, Macho Man
which I hate.
agenda. So it was nice to see that they were talking more about, Jericho, Malenko. There's one spot I had to talk about. I don't know if you guys noticed. Well, I'm sure you noticed the suicide dive by Super Calo to the outside where they said he doesn't even lose his hat, but it was a cool suicide dive because it wasn't a normal suicide dive because he somersaulted after he went through the ropes, which I thought was cool. But leading up to that, Jericho takes a tumble to the outside, and the cameraman's right there, and Jericho knows the spot's coming, and he smartly pushes the cameraman away, actually just in time because Super Calo is coming full force. Otherwise, it could have been a nasty spot there. If you remember that spot from, I think it was Taker and Michaels at WrestleMania, where Taker, Taker dives into the cameraman because the cameraman was in the wrong spot. You remember that, Kyle?
Yeah, it was the first time. It was the first time they wrestled. I think it was WrestleMania 25. He did his jumping over the top rope to the outside, right. And the whole spot was, I think Shawn Michaels threw the cameraman in the way, but Taker kind of stuck the landing and kind of penciled it, and the cameraman, who actually I believe was Snuka's nephew.
It was somebody famous.
It was
somebody
Domino.
related.
It was Domino from Deuce and Domino.
Yes, right. That's Snuka's nephew.
I think it's. I know he's part of that family. I believe it's Tamina's brother, or Tamina's cousin or something like that. Whatever. They're part of that same family. They're all part of that same whatever Samoan type of group. And yeah, he doesn't do a good job of catching him.
No, he fucked up. I think he lost. I think he got fired after that.
I think he did get fired for it.
But anyways, I say all that because Jericho kind of, saved this cameraman from getting hurt or Super Calo getting hurt there. But I thought it was well played. As for the match itself, I thought the match was pretty hot, and then towards the end, you got a lot of quick near falls where it looked like Super Calo actually had a shot of winning this. Jericho's ultimately going to put the Lion Tamer on almost out of nowhere, which kind of surprised me. He's going to win this match. I gave it 2.25 stars. I thought the match was good. I thought the crowd was hot for it, and there were some good near falls, but I just wasn't crazy about that ending. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I gave it 2.5 stars. The only thing I kind of put as a note to this was I kind of wish that there was a little bit more back and forth offense, because this isn't the kind of match that I'm used to seeing Jericho in. Jericho was basically getting manhandled almost the entire match. I think he had some early offense. But I would probably say the last, 60 to 70% of the match was Super Calo just, basically throwing all of his offense onto Jericho. So Jericho kind of looked like a heel in peril, where he was trying to find some way to get back into the match. And I thought, okay, maybe he'll do like a heel tactic, like where he'll distract the ref or blow or do some sort of I guess underhanded tactic to get back into the match. But no, he actually just beats him straight up. And I just said that it seems weird. It almost felt like the roles were reversed a little bit in this match.
I gave it 2.25 as well. I also thought it was a pretty good match, especially as an opening match. My only gripe, and I've said this in the past, and I'm sure I'll say it in the future, even on this episode, but I feel like these matches always end exactly how you can guess. Like, there was no way Jericho was going to lose to Super Calo. At least in the 11 episodes of Thunder, it's never happened. So it would be cool if at some point they made that happen. So while watching this match, I could have thought, oh, maybe Jericho's going to possibly lose the championship to Super Calo on Thunder. But
I mean, the title has changed hands on Thunder.
No, the title has, but I'm just talking about.
You're just saying
a superstar like Jericho going up against Super Calo, like,
okay,
you know what I mean? And not that Super Calo's a jabroni or something like that, but like, I did not for 1 second think Jericho was actually going to lose this match.
That's fair.
And that was just me personally.
I'll agree with you there. We did see our first sign of the night, or what I like to call sign 1A and 1B, and it was one fan holding up a sign that said Booker T is my dad, and the guy next to him saying the brain is my mom. So appreciate that there, Terre Haute.
Was it the same guy holding both signs?
No, they were like right next to each other. They came as a duo. Right.
Gotcha.
Speaking of coming as a duo, the next duo in our matchups for the night was El Dandy versus Kendall Windham. And I got to say, there was no dick showing for Kendall Windham this week as he was wearing jeans. I don't know if he heard our podcast last week, 20 years later, and realized I'm not gonna leave so much little to the imagination. And he's rocking some jeans. But I don't know if you guys thought it was strange. This match starts. We come back from commercial and the match is ready to happen. It felt
and once again,
very weird.
That's the tropes of a live show.
There was no entrances for these guys. Not that you missing anything.
I don't think anybody was looking forward to the entrance of El Dandy except me.
And
Jack Black.
I can't say Nacho Libre.
I can't say I disagree with that either, because the fans couldn't care less about this match. For a crowd that was really hot and for most of the night, nobody gave a shit about this match. All of a sudden, the crowd is turning around, looking. I didn't know whether a chick was flashing or there's a fight breaking out, or, as it turned out to be, the flock coming down for their normal let's sit in the crowd segment.
I think I'm over that whole thing.
You're over the flock.
You're also not a you're not a Raven mark by any means.
Just start them down there. We get it. They're going to be ringside and they're going to do weird shit. We get it.
Well, they do come down ringside, and Raven is holding the United States title. And if you didn't watch Uncensored, you might think, oh, did he win that Triple Jeopardy match? He did not. And it turns out he actually stole the title from DDP on MTV Live, which we will find about a little bit later. And then all that is said, Kendall Windham gives the worst running bulldog I've ever seen, gets a 3 count. I give this a 1.5 stars. The crowd didn't care for this match. I didn't care for this match.
1.5. I have nothing else to add. I thought it was horrible.
1.25 for me. There was no pop-worthy offense. This is the second time in a row that I've watched Kendall Windham where the only thing that he has good going for him is that he could sell a clothesline, which is very weird considering who's giving him the clothesline is a man half his size. Yeah, it's bad when the most exciting part of the whole match, according to the crowd, is just a bunch of bums taking their seats in the front of the front row of the audience.
And according to Haddix, he's already over that. So,
dude, so over, bro. I'm so over it.
He must have been really not interested in this match.
I'm going to update the website promo with the things you don't like, and you'll be like Raven and his flock.
Raven and his flock are up there.
Next up is Tony Schiavone, who is well dressed this week, unlike last week where he was wearing that gray Thunder polo. He's well dressed. He's got Kurt Hennig and Rick Rude out here, and they're letting us know that Kurt Hennig is fighting Rick Steiner this later tonight. But most of the discussion here with Rude and Hennig is in reference to Bret the Zitman Hart and how they took care of him at Uncensored. Of course, Bret Hart did win the match, but as you can imagine, the NWO kind of attacked him afterwards. And it's kind of a weak and awkward promo all around from these two.
The Zitman thing was weird, man. That was
that's a blast from the past. I mean, that's Zitman sounds like when he was in the 80s.
Yeah, yes. That was a bad.
It's all around bad. This, of course, when the 240-pound boil on the booty of life was mentioned, and then of course yet again when you're talking about Bret Hart, you got to steal the best there is, best there was, best there ever will be catchphrase by saying that's the way it is, was, and always will be. And then it gets really weird at the end when they said, "Do you want a Halls?" And Hennig says no because they're just too sweet. I'm not sure if that was supposed to be a plug for Hall's Cough Drops, an improv line at the end. The whole promo fell flat for me. And what was
weird for me with that whole thing was that their music plays, but then Schiavone continues the interview even though their music is playing, and then Hennig twists the front of his hair to look like Scott Hall, and then that's when Rude asks Hennig if he wants a Halls, and then says, no, they're just too sweet. And by the way, Hennig, God rest his soul, he should never say that that line. He ruined it. I'm surprised that they used that line moving forward because I felt like he buried it. But I felt like he was doing the twisting of the hair and like that long strand hair in the front just to kind of like, kind of just dig. Once again, not like kayfabe dig, but just like have a good time with Scott Hall and then doing a Hall's reference.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It felt weird.
It's a stretch. I'm just saying.
Right. Thankfully, that promo was saved by La Parka coming out with a kitchen apron on. I'm not sure why, but out he came, the chairman of WCW Wrestling Saturn. This match, to me, had some okay moments, but also some very predictable moments, including when Lodi and Saturn were like holding each other on the outside for the top rope plancha that La Parka delivered. And La Parka then later in the match is going to grab a chair, which Nick Patrick is totally cool with. He's going to get into the ring, turn his back to Saturn, and get drop kicked into the chair, leading to the Rings of Saturn. I gave this 2 stars. Like I said, it was a little predictable, kind of sloppy technique at times. It just was okay. But I got to say, this Indiana crowd loved it.
I gave it 2 stars as well. I think I actually would have rated this a little bit higher if there weren't some sloppy moments. La Parka is entertaining it all, but he's definitely no nimble guy like a Rey Mysterio or a Hoovy. He's definitely your resident barely under the cap of being a cruiserweight type of luchador. And but once again, Saturn has just some of the best offense as far as moveset. It's so unique. So I always enjoy a Saturn match. And I assumed that he was going to win, but I got to give La Parka a little bit of, a hats off just because he definitely shone some light in this match. And I wouldn't have been shocked. I would have been surprised if he won. But from the way it was looking, it looked like, once again, another match where it looked like anybody could have won.
I gave it 1 3/4 stars. Yeah, I think the only thing I enjoyed about this match was I wasn't sure who was going to win. But other than that, a lot of mess ups, a lot of botches. I wasn't that into it.
Is this the same one where La Parka tries to leap over Saturn and Saturn kind of like puts his head up a little bit too early and it looked really ugly?
There was a bunch of things like that.
Yeah, there was things like that. Yep. Okay.
I was wondering because I watched this a couple days ago and I watched a couple episodes ahead, so I'm trying to make sure I'm on the right week.
I gotcha. After this, we get our MTV Live replay. This is where we got good old Carson Daly rocking the backwards baseball cap. And he's sitting there with DDP and Raven's on the monitor. Raven keeps going staticky in and out. Of course, Raven's cutting his "What About Me? What About Raven?" promo. And DDP is asked if he's got a match with Raven, and he says he's not sure. And then says, "Oh yeah, I do have a title match for him. Signed at Spring Stampede."
I feel like somebody was either looking at him "Yeah, you do. We already know that you have this match."
Yeah, it felt very awkward. And then I always appreciated Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters just hanging out. Of course, Raven is going to show up and nail DDP with the stop sign, which paralyzes him or something because he just went limp. And then Raven's going to give him a
He looked like he got hit with that and he just got drugged.
It was very strange. But then I will say he delivered a great even flow DDT through the table. He's going to grab the United States title. That's your MTV Live segment. So now we know how Raven got the United States title. And we now have had it confirmed, kind of, that DDP and Raven will be wrestling again for the United States Championship at the upcoming pay-per-view. And after that, Barry Dorso is going to come out, and I thought for sure this is our Goldberg segment of the night.
Me too.
That's funny that you said that.
And then it turns out it's Ray Traylor, so I was pleasantly surprised, I guess. There's a spot in this match that I just want to talk about because I feel like it happens from time to time in a match where 2 dudes start pushing each other into the corner of the ring and they're getting ready to brawl, and the ref gets in there and breaks them up. And I never understood why the ref is breaking up 2 guys who are wrestling each other.
If they're in the corner, he's supposed to break it up because if you go to the corner or the ropes, you're supposed to separate.
Is that the rule?
Yeah, that is. I mean, have you never seen that where someone gets pushed into the corner and then the ref will start counting because you're supposed to get out of the corner? The corner counts the same thing as the ropes. So if you lock up and start doing stuff in the corner, you got to break it up.
Yeah, I guess I never put that together, but that makes a lot of sense. Thank you
it's okay. You've only been watching wrestling for 25 years.
Well, they change the rules on me sometimes. I didn't know if it was Ravens rules, bro. All right.
Nice. I see you there.
Ray Traylor is going to win this with the trailer trash, which they immediately changed to the trailer spike. So I don't know what they're calling it these days. I thought the match was just fine, but Hoagie, I kind of want you to talk more about this match because you seem to really like this one.
I will say, hear me out here about this match. I know it's Ray Traylor versus Barry Darsow. I get it. It's Big Boss Man versus Repo Man. Maybe 10 years ago, this might have been a half exciting match with their gimmicky type of thing. But I thought this match was choreographed really well for these guys. Obviously, there's no huge spots or anything. The crowd was actually pretty into this, especially for Ray Traylor. When Ray Traylor was coming down to the ring, he probably got one of the biggest pops of anybody in the whole show.
They played some pyro for him too.
Yeah, like I said, I think they really were like, let's get this crowd excited for a Barry Darsow Ray Traylor match. But both of them looked tough. I think they both kind of had the same idea of once again, you didn't know who was going to win. I think a lot of people would assume that the household name is still sadly Ray Traylor in this case. But still,
absolutely.
The way that they kind of did it, they kind of hid their imperfections. And it turned out for what they had to do, there was no messed up spots. Ray Traylor was able to get the crowd on his side. As far as just executing the match the way it was supposed to be done, I don't think that they did anything wrong. Yes, it's slow. Yes, it's kind of steady. But in this particular case, that works perfectly for both of these guys, and they end up putting up a really good match to a really good reaction by the crowd when Ray Traylor actually won. This was probably one of the biggest pops to an ending of a match, too. So that's why I gave it a higher than normal rating. I gave it 2 3/4, which I think right now is the highest rating I've given a match today.
I gave it 2, and I can't argue with the things you said, but I think that they might be why I gave it a 2. There was nothing crazy about the match, and while I agree that I didn't know who was going to win this match, I also did not care who was going to win this match. So that's why I
understand you guys are grading on a curve of that your points or your rating also has something to do with who's actually in the ring. Same thing with me. I think a 2 3/4 star match is what they're at best what they're capable of doing. But I think they did. They couldn't have made this match any better between the two of them. That's why I had to give them props.
And I understand, and I think if there was a story behind it, I think that does make the match better. But when you just put two guys together, even if they're solid wrestlers, I think it just takes away a little bit.
But once again, I think that's another reason why this was a good match, though, is because they didn't have a storyline, and yet they were still able to go in there and not so much tell a story in the sense of these guys are feuding, but they told a story in the sense of just two tough guys getting in the ring and just seeing who's gonna be able to pull it off at the end. Not every match needs a story.
But who cares about that? I don't care who can win a wrestling match if there's no story behind it. Well, you want to root for somebody.
Well, you gotta root for Ray Traylor, bro.
But and I'll touch on this later. My last point is I was surprised this match went as long as it did, considering some of the other matches that did not go very long.
Right.
But I'll touch on that later.
I'll agree with you, Kyle, in regards to I don't necessarily rate my matches based on who's in them as to just how well the match played out. But there is some of that story behind there that does help make or, push further a match's success, which to hear there's really no story going along other than the story that they can just tell as two random guys wrestling. After this, though, we're going to get Tony is going to let us know that he's got a big announcement, but he's going to have to wait till after the commercial to confirm this announcement. And, of course, we'll come back from commercial, and he can confirm it that Roddy Piper is going to be on Nitro this coming Monday in Louisville to make a challenge. So
that was the big thing.
That was the big thing. Tony is selling it like it is the biggest announcement of all time. It could be a blockbuster challenge. He knows no more details other than that, and says that he might even get to Kentucky early so he can make sure that he's there for this challenge.
Well, I hope so. It's his job to be there.
Right.
He better be there on time at the very least. What? I understand. The crowd needs to get there early, maybe to make sure that they're not dealing with crowds or anything, but he doesn't have to deal with that. So that whole sentiment of I need to get to the arena early, you have every advantage being in the company to get there whenever the fuck you want.
But he really wants to get there early this time for this crazy announcement. We'll have to wait and see what that is. I'm sure we'll find out next week on Thunder. In the meantime, though, we've got Yuji Nagata and Prince Iakea. We're also going to get our third sign of the night, which I don't think I talked about our second sign of the night. I want to go back and mention it says WCW NWO, the new Jerry Springer show. Now we'll go to our third sign, which I missed the top. It was cut off. I'm guessing it said welcome, or it might have said, Terry Hot, but it said the armpit of America. So fans dissing their own hometown. As for this match, it took 2 minutes. I was timing it before they mentioned that Prince Iake is a former television champion. But once you're a television champion, you're always a television champion, according to this commentary team.
Especially if that's the only thing you'll ever do.
Right, exactly. The referee, I don't know who's more blind, if it's Charles Robinson or Sonny Ono, because Prince Iake reverses the Irish whip, and Eugene Nagata is going against the ropes where Charles Robinson and Sonny Ono are there. Sonny Ono is going to kick his own guy in the back, which is going to lead to a Northern Lights suplex for Prince Iake and the win. I gave it a 1 3/4. I thought it was a decent match, but I thought that ending was shit.
I gave it a 2 stars. Again, solid match. I think both these guys can wrestle. Yet again, I thought was longer than I expected. And back to what I said before, I just have no interest in who wins, so it's hard for me to get really involved.
I gave it 2 stars, a little bit different reasoning. I mean, the match was good and all, but as far as actually calling the match, I felt like the commentary team didn't give a shit. They were fantasizing more and more about what possibly Roddy Piper could be challenging. Could be someone from WCW or the NWO, and they just stretched that motherfucking storyline for almost the entire time. I think at some point, Shivani shits on Sonny Ono and compares him to Heenan, saying that neither of them know when to shut up. And then Heenan retorts and just takes offense to the fact that Sonny Ono is 4'8", according to Heenan.
That was a good line.
But yeah, the whole idea of Charles Robinson apparently not seeing any of that blatant bullshit was a little bit weird. Like I said, some poorly choreographed stuff. I like the idea of it. It just needed to be executed correctly, and it really wasn't. So both of these wrestlers are better than what their careers end up becoming, but that's another discussion maybe for another day.
Yes, sir. That said, our following match is going to be Brian Adams versus Marty Jannetty. I thought this was a little bit of a random match as it popped
really?
up.
You're gonna skip the cannonball?
Well, I already referred to it earlier, so
all right. I get you.
We do see our replay, of course, of Kevin Nash doing the cannonball into the pool.
I honestly laughed out loud because he doesn't just jump in; he cannonballs in, and I was like, "That's just amazing,
dude." That's because he's the 1998 Spring Break Cannonball champion.
That was such a good I don't know if that was his idea or WCW's idea, but it was amazing.
It was pretty funny. But no, yes. Now back to Jannetty and Brian Adams. I don't know why, of all the matches that happened already, Barry Dorso and Ray Traylor, Brian Adams versus Marty Jannetty just seemed like a very random pairing. But I thought they told a great story, both in ring and on commentary, about the Brian Adams, has 100 pounds on Marty Jannetty, but Jannetty has the speed. And it was a lot of that, speed and size kind of going hand to hand. And, Marty Jannetty, very talented. I think he kind of I think he's an underrated performer over the years. But he shows some great facial expressions in this match. I thought it just overall, told a decent story. I'm going to give it 2.5 stars. Brian Adams is going to win this with a tilt-a-whirl slam. For me, again, this was a match of two people that had no prior story, but I thought they just went in here and it was a small, speedy guy against a larger, stronger, powerful NWO member. And, he gave it his all, but he did not win. But I liked the story going through. And 2.5 stars for me.
I gave this a 2.25. It was okay. I thought Jannetty did a pretty good job of selling Brian Adams as being this, this freight train, monster. Once again, you kind of have to when you have 100 pounds at your disadvantage. Brian Adams needs a better finisher. I understand that the heart punch is probably the worst finisher of all time. The tilt-a-whirl slam is close to that, though.
Well, it's funny you say that because I saw you put that in your notes, and I thought, I think you're onto something there. Brian Adams is a big dude. He's fairly talented in the ring, but I think that, to your point, not having a good finisher, because a Tilt-A-World Slam, or God, when he was Crush, his finisher was awful.
Squeezing a guy in the head.
Squeezing the guy's head together, yeah. He definitely was, he needed like the pump handle slam or something like that. Like, I think he could have gotten over using, like being like a Test, like what Test was in WWF. Like,
he kind of looks like Test, yeah.
Yeah. He's got that size and build, but like, yeah. Kyle, I think you nailed it on the head. His finisher was one of the reasons why he never got to that next level, I think.
You always need something that's going to market well. And watching him do a Tilt-A-Whirl Slam is not something that you would put on a promo. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to promo Bryan Adams, you want to make sure you have something that, like, I'm sorry, but when we were doing like backyard wrestling or trampoline wrestling, no one was doing the Tilt-A-Whirl Slam and calling Bryan Adams. No one was doing that.
It's true. Haddix, what'd you think about this match?
I gave this 2.25, but while thinking about it and talking about it, I think I would rate this higher. This is a match I thought was going to be a squash match when I saw what it was. And I love Marty Jannetty. And I don't know much about him except for
not
when we started watching
Raven,
Thunder.
But loves himself some Marty Jannetty.
I do. I think to Kaiser's points, I think he's a great wrestler who just loses anytime we see him on Thunder, which he ended up losing. But I really enjoyed the story they were telling. And to compare this to the Ray Traylor match, considering there was no story going into this, I really agree with Kaiser that they told a really good story. It helps when the commentary team.
Yeah, I was just saying the commentary team was helping, was involved with this one.
Yeah, and that makes a huge difference. But I really liked that it wasn't just a squash match. It was a lot of offense from Bryan Adams, but they gave Marty the little comeback, and then finally, he gets beat. Okay, that makes sense, obviously. But it didn't hurt Marty. Mind you, the dude loses every week. So
no, in some ways, I think he's probably looked his best.
Oh, yeah. I really enjoyed this match, and I gave it 2.25, but I think I would give it 2.5. I think I'd jump up with you and give it 2.5.
All right, we bumped you up a quarter.
There you go.
That's what we're talking about.
And do you also understand that, like, we've now talked about it now twice, I think, that how much of difference, I understand that, Thunder is what Thunder is, and if you're going to talk about storylines, every once in a while you've got to pepper in discuss different things during matches, that maybe during the lull of matches. But when the commentary team is actually engaged in the match that's going on, it gets you interested in the match too, because you're not only are you watching it, you're following their reactions to it and everything. It just overall makes the match better.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree completely. Yeah. Speaking of the commentary team, after this match, they're going to cut back to the commentary team, who are going to discuss mostly, Sting's big entrance from the helicopter, Nitro. And we all three of us commented about how Bischoff sold the win to that helicopter like it was a freaking
Category 5 hurricane.
Yeah, Category 5. I could not think of it. I was like...
An F5, if you will.
I was thinking F5, but I was going C5 and category. I was mixing them up, but there we go. Yes.
No one else is selling it at all, by the way. And Bischoff's selling it like...
Bischoff is about to flip over into the pool. But the other thing I want to talk about with the commentary team, did you notice Lee Marshall, who was there at the beginning of the show, seemed to be booted off commentary a lot tonight from Mike Tenay? And not just for
would you have rather been Brain at this point? I mean, I think Lee Marshall is the correct choice.
No, I don't disagree with you there, but it was weird. Like, it seemed like previously Tenay would come on for the luchador matches where he'd have to call a lot of high spots and stuff. But like here, it's the commentary discussing what happened on Nitro and the NWO and Sting and all that. And you got Tenay out there and not Lee Marshall. I just thought it was interesting. After this, though, we're gonna get Mike Tenay's gonna have to come back out here because it's Psychosis versus movies for guys who like movies. Eddie Guerrero. The wrong graphic was up on their screen. As for this match, I really enjoyed the match. There was a great corkscrew moonsault to the outside by Psychosis, which I thought looked great. He's going to attempt it again inside the ring later, which of course he's going to miss. This is going to lead to Eddie getting up for the frog splash, but that's going to get stopped as Psychosis goes up there for the superplex. Then Psychosis is going to get thrown down, and then Eddie's going to hit the frog splash to the back of Psychosis. And he's going to get the 3 count there. I get this 2.5 stars. I enjoyed the match, and I thought that 3 count at the end was back and forth. I felt like the two guys were really battling, like who's going to get their move off to get that 3 count. And for that, I really enjoyed this match. Now, Haddix, I think you might want to disagree with me a little bit on this one.
I gave it a 1. I feel like, and I could be completely wrong, but I feel like, and it might have been on that first moonsault to the outside, because he kind of like missed, or it was like a weird. I don't know. It seemed weird to me. Maybe I'm completely off here.
He did take it like, a little weird. I'll give you that.
I feel like somebody was injured, whether it was Eddie or Sag. I don't know what it was. Eddie seemed a little bit off, and I feel like, I know that you could do the frog splash to the back, and it doesn't seem like it has the same effect to me when you're doing it to somebody's back. But like I feel like they are kind of just like, all right, let's end this match type of thing. I love Eddie Guerrero, and Psychosis can definitely perform. So it has nothing to do with these guys sucking. I just feel like something went wrong that wasn't supposed to happen, and I feel like they kind of were like, all right, well, let's get out of this match kind of as quickly as we can type of deal. And again, maybe that's just Thunder. Maybe I'm way off, but it just seemed a little bit messy to me. So that's why I gave it a 175.
Like Kaiser, I gave this a 2.5 stars. A couple sloppy parts, I think, like Haddock said, but I feel like they do pick themselves up off of it pretty quickly. They don't really. What I really like sometimes about, you have good wrestlers when if you do botch, you have the ability to get right back into the match and kind of like sweep it under the rug and move forward. Psychosis looked good in a loss. I think everyone here assumed that unless there was some sort of outside interference, Eddie was going to win this match. I agree, Haddock's completely about if you're going off the top of the rope, top rope to do your finisher. I feel like it just doesn't have as much of an impact when you do it to someone's back instead of doing it like right on the chest. As far as talking about the frog splash, I also had a really good time with Tony Schiavone trying to call the moves that these guys are doing and being wrong every time, and Tenay talking over him to correct him.
He's so bad. There's a reason Mike Tenay's out there for these matches.
I just love that. I think Tony heard for the first time what a plancha was, and every single time someone went to the top rope, he just like, oh, is that a plancha? And Tay's like, no, it's a corkscrew moonsault. So yeah, I love that. So I thought that once again, I felt like the commentary group was into this match. I gave it a higher rating because of that, but it would have been higher if there was a couple of less sloppy parts. Also, Psychosis does his finisher, and instead of pinning him, just kicks Eddie out of the ring, which I just also thought was a little weird.
Yeah, I'll give you that. After this, we get the much anticipated rematch between Raven and Brad Armstrong. Before the match starts, Hammer and Reese are going to attack Armstrong, but the commentary team's not sure whether that's the case or if it's Raven's rules. Raven's going to get on the mic and say that he offered Brad Armstrong salvation and redemption, and then says, DDP, I offer you nothing, and as you get weaker, I will grow stronger. Then he's going to hit the even flow on Armstrong. Nick Patrick's going to count a 3. I'm not considering this even to be a match, much like last week. Haddox, what'd you think about your boy Raven's promo here?
Don't like any of it. Why doesn't when he's in a championship match, and maybe you can answer this because you watched it, why does he not do this every time he's in a match? Why doesn't he just bring the whole flock in every time he's in a match and just win every match he's in?
It's a great point, and I think, and I'm trying to remember because it's been a couple weeks since I did watch that. I believe there was some outside interference. But I forget how it ended now.
That's my problem with the whole...
I think the match just got thrown out after he stood tall, and the match just kind of ended. It was
that's just my problem with the whole thing is like, so anytime you're versus a jabroni like Brad Armstrong, there's no match because the whole flock comes in, but then for some reason you'll wrestle DDP and Chris Benoit fine. You know what I mean? It's just... Right. It's whatever. I don't like it.
Fair enough. What I didn't like was this Bret Hart promo that followed this match. It was just bad. I don't know what else to say about it. It was just bad, and I don't know what the hell they're doing with Bret Hart. It's just terrible.
They're not. Well, first of all, they're not showcasing him. That's the big thing. They're not putting him on TV, really.
He sure as hell hasn't been on. I think we've seen him on one episode of Thunder in our 11 episodes.
Right, and we talked about how the first episode of the Thunder Craps that we thought that the whole idea of Thunder was that get me Bret Hart and he's going to showcase the talent and kind of carry the banner for Thunder so that we're not thinning out the numbers for Nitro.
Right, but here we are. We are going to get our 5th sign of the night. Holiday Inn is just too sweet, which I thought was funny because I was watching this episode in the Holiday Inn. So. After that, we're going to get Scott Norton accompanied to the ring by Vincent versus Chris Benoit. Vincent's going to start the match out by getting his ass kicked. And as for this match, This match was better than it had any business being. Late in the match, Chris Benoit is going to hit a German suplex on Scott Norton, which is a feat on its own right because Scott Norton's a huge man.
He's a monster.
Then Chris Benoit is going to hit the flying headbutt, and then he's going to put on the crossface. Scott Norton is not going to tap. He's going to hold out for quite some time on the crossface. Vincent's going to come up on the apron, which leads Benoit to release the crossface to why? Who knows? Scott Norton's going to hit his shoulder breaker, and he's going to get the 3 count. For me, this was 2 3/4 stars. I didn't write a lot of notes because I found myself surprisingly invested in watching Chris Benoit and Scott Norton. And I know Scott Norton did a lot in Japan, and I can't say I ever saw any of that. And I know him and Chris Benoit probably had a history there. This match just thoroughly entertained me. And I got to say, it's probably the match of the night, and I never would have guessed it in 100 years.
I gave this 3 stars. I was like you. I was really into this match. I actually had to go back and watch it again to put notes down. Benoit really made Norton look like a shit brick house, and he really, I mean, Norton is huge. He's one big giant chest muscle. But really, I mean, in all honesty, when Scott Norton is motivated, and especially if you put him in a match where he can look just overpowering. Like what you and I were watching, we were doing our old, the other podcast. We were watching him take on people like, the Shark or taking on like the Giant. He's taking on bigger guys, but when he has the chance to bully people or take on people that he can easily look like he's squashing, he looks crazy good. To be honest, I was overall very satisfied with this match, and also the commentary once again really into the match.
I give this 2 2.25. Also really enjoyed it. I think my only flaw in this, and the only caveat is if maybe this doesn't go anywhere. I don't know. Maybe this was just a one-time deal. But I would have rather Norton somehow get out of the crossface instead of just not tapping to it. That was a very big power move for middle of the card or towards the end of the middle of the card.
I feel like that would have
Thunder.
buried Benoit pretty hard if someone just got out of it.
I would have rather him got out of it and then continued some offense and then Vincent interfered. My only problem is like basically Benoit threw everything at him and couldn't get him to do anything. Like I know Vincent interfered, but it's almost like he didn't even have to because Norton wasn't going to tap or anything. I would have rather them continue this storyline and eventually he gets the crossface on Norton and Norton doesn't kick out of it. And then it's like oh my God, this guy can't like be beat type of deal. But anyway, that's just nitpicking. You know what I mean? But agree with both of you. Probably one of the best matches of the night, if not one of the best matches in a few episodes. Well, that was for the what I just said.
Right. There is a contender for maybe the best match we've seen in forever. Is Wayne Bloom and Goldberg are going to be wrestling in our upcoming match, and as Wayne Bloom's coming out, we pan to the crowd and we see our 6th out of the night. Goldberg fears a real challenge, which I just thought was perfect timing. And then this is the point where they mentioned that Goldberg is 55-0. This is the first time we've actually heard what his undefeated streak is. Maybe they mentioned it at Nitro, but up until this point, we have not heard an actual number, an actual count. I did go to the Internet Wrestling Database, and he's actually 38-0 at this point in his wrestling career. Now, is it possible he was wrestling at some live house shows? Yes. I know they really reduced and almost eliminated house shows at this point. So is 55 accurate? I don't know.
Well, what's also crazier about that is that this is right now, middle of March? By the beginning of July, he's going to rack up 108 wins.
Yeah.
Because he's 108-0 by the end of July 6th, which, spoiler alert, that's when he wins the title.
Well, we'll have to...
That's ruined.
Yeah, come on, dude. Come on. We'll have to see how this count goes up. Like if next week they're like, "Oh, he's 62-0," we'll know that. Well,
I literally counted. I counted every single day. If he's on Nitro, Thunder, and
Saturday night,
and a pay-per-view every month, it's exactly 106-0 when he comes into July 6th. So he has to literally be at every show to actually reach that 108.
Well, and he's only at a show for like 5 minutes, so that's doable.
It's true. This match is gonna be even less. Even though they mentioned that this might be the first time Wayne Bloom has ever been in the ring with someone of his own similar power. So apparently Wayne Bloom getting really,
he's getting a bunch of Mari Jannettis apparently when he's fighting.
Naturally, of course, this is a spear and a jackhammer. Our conversation of this match is probably longer than the match itself. I give it a 1 3/4, or what I like to call a typical Goldberg rating.
1 3/4 as well. Typical Goldberg, but I am enjoying them for what it's worth.
1.5, mainly because Wayne Bloom knocked it down a quarter.
Fair enough. After this, we are going to see Saturn kind of come from the crowd and start talking shit to Goldberg, which leads me to believe that maybe Saturn and Goldberg are going to be the Spring Stampede matchup, which I'm kind of interested to see because I think Saturn can hold his own in the ring, and maybe he's going to give Goldberg a halfway decent match. So we'll have to see about that. After this, we are going to move to our main event. It's Curt Hennig with Rick Rude, of course, wrestling Rick Steiner with Ted DiBiase. I almost forgot we were watching the main event until Rick Rude clipped Steiner from the top rope, immediately ending this match in a disqualification. We are going to see our 7th sign of the night that says Hogan is a pussy. And this match we're not going to rate, guys, because it was over before it started. This leads to post-match brawling. You know, Rick Steiner and Curt Hennig are battling. Vincent's battling Ted DiBiase. People are all over the place. Out comes the NWO. They're going to start taking care of business. But thank God we got Ray Traylor for the save. And then out comes Goldberg, and the crowd lost their mind for Goldberg. He does a double spear, which is just a great looking spot. He's going to spear Scott Norton. Tony Schiavone says, "Who's next?" And I don't know, Kyle. Is this the dawn of the "Who's next" catchphrase for Goldberg? Did Schiavone actually coin it?
No. If you actually go back to the Wayne Bloom win, he yells "Who's next" after his win.
Oh, does he? I missed
Yes.
that. Okay. All right.
Do not give Tony Schiavone that much credit.
Goldberg is going to leave the ring, apparently, and that's going to set up Ray Traylor and Rick Steiner to, stand tall and strong in the ring. And the commentary team basically ends by saying, "Look out, NWO! You've pissed off Bill Goldberg." And that's our show. I want to get my overall thoughts first because this is a night where there was no DDP. Yeah, we saw the MTV Live replay, but there was no DDP. There was no Kevin Nash. There was no Scott Hall, no Hogan, no Hart, no Flair, no Sting, no Giant, no Macho Man. That's a lot of star power that's not at this show. That's all the recipe in the world to be a terrible, terrible Thunder. And instead, I found myself thinking that this was a pretty good show. We had a hot crowd. We had some surprisingly good matches with people that we wouldn't expect. Scott Norton, Chris Benoit, okay, maybe a little bit. Kyle, Barry Dorso, and Ray Traylor. We saw a lot of surprisingly decent matches. And then this is the first we've really seen is Goldberg, who's on this unbelievable tear. He's going up against the NWO, and he kind of clears house there at the end. And I got to say, I was fucking digging it. I was like marking out at the end for Goldberg, who I never liked. And I still don't think he's a great time. I was digging him taking out the NWO there at the end. We had our 11th straight disqualification for the main event. But I thought this was one of the best ways that we've ended a Thunder since we started watching it with the way Goldberg came in. I think this was one of the better Thunders. And it blows my mind with who was out there and who was listed. If you had told me from the beginning, hey, this is the cast of characters, I'd have said, oh, we're in for a treat. We were in for a very treat, and I enjoyed it. What did you guys think about Thunder?
I thought, minus the after the match stuff, the show itself was average. Goldberg coming out at the end was very Stone Cold-esque when he would just come out and stunner everybody, and
right,
everyone
yep.
would just. So I loved it too, and I did not see it coming at all. And I thought it was amazing. I thought it was cool that he didn't celebrate with the WCW guys. He kind of just did his own thing and left. So he's still kind of like his own dude.
Yep,
you know what I mean?
That's a good point.
I wish, back to something I said earlier real quick, I wish that they took a little bit of time out of a couple of the matches that really had no story and let Rick Steiner, Curt Hennig wrestle a little bit longer instead of it just being an immediate DQ. That's the
nice
story. That's the story stuff and maybe that's like the wrestler saying, hey, I didn't really want to wrestle on Thunder. Let's just do something
I mean,
quick.
that's bullshit. I don't think that's the case.
But I just don't understand why the writers don't think.
I don't get
let's
it either.
Give them 5 more minutes.
Especially because you're pushing that as your main event. You're kind of building that a little bit throughout the show. Like, okay, we have Hennig and Rude come out. Oh, by the way, our main event tonight is Steiner and Hennig. Like, you're building
they're
up
both
to that,
great wrestlers.
and there's nothing. Yeah.
I mean, and I would even be a little bit more okay with the DQ finish if it was a great match and then DQ. Oh, and then here's Goldberg. I just don't get how they book some of this stuff. But hey, who am I? I'm just a jabroni.
Overall, I like the latter half of the show. I think after the El Dandy match, the matches were fun enough to watch. The commentary was into basically every match. I like the whole dichotomy of the NWO getting the wins, but WCW overall looks strong. I think I can answer the question about Rick and Kurt Hennig because I agree. It's in my notes too. I wish they were given more time. But once again, this is a live show. I honestly think that they were running low on time. They knew that they had to do the Goldberg spot at the end. They wanted to make sure that they had time for that. They didn't want to be dangerously out of time. And I think when they went down there, they were probably told, you all going down, hey guys, we're cutting your match a little bit. Because it seemed like it really did end crazy fast. I think that if everything was done correctly and everything was timed the way it probably should have been, I think there was probably a match or at least some sort of semblance of a match. But once again, if you have a lot of stuff going on after the match, then you have to sacrifice the actual match because what's happening afterwards is way more important.
And I agree with that. But you're telling me the Al Dandy and Kendall Windham and
like I said, I agree with the sentiment that these other matches shouldn't have been as long. But what I'm just saying is when you said that I wish that they wrestled for longer, that might have just been straight up an impossibility. Because once again, when you're doing a live show, you're given what time you have left, and yeah, they might have messed that up, but you can't go long. Even though they always say that they can go long.
Get that.
Right.
I understand that. Yeah. I understand.
So I think we're all on the same page. Overall, it was a solid show, and hopefully that the streak will continue next week. Of course, we're going to be discussing the March 26th edition, not the. This was not the March 26th edition, as I opened up the show with. If you haven't followed us yet on iTunes, go give us a follow. Leave us that 5-star rating, or at least like a 2 3/4 star, something like that, right? Follow us on Twitter. Of course, we're at Thundercraps. And until next time, for Josh Haddix and Kyle Hoagland, I am Josh Kaiser, and we will see you next time on the Thundercraps podcast.
See you later.
We are dangerously out of time.